Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your research, your notes, your questions, and turn them into something clear and actionable.
Exactly.
And today, we are really tackling one of the most frustrating dilemmas in modern health.
It really is.
You know the feeling. You've done the work. You've cut the carbs. You've tried skipping meals. You're hitting your 10,000 steps. You feel like you're doing everything right.
Everything.
Yeah.
But you're still exhausted, you're bloated, and that weight just, it will not budge.
It's stuck.
That experience, putting in all that effort for almost no results, it's incredibly isolating.
Yeah.
And people, they tend to internalize that. They think it's their fault, a lack of willpower, when the real issue is often, it's metabolic, it's structural.
That structural issue is exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission is to explore a listener's personal journey with something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD. All the sources suggest this could be the silent reason behind that lockdown metabolism, the brain fog, the fatigue. And then we're going to unpack the specific dietary approach that finally moved the needle for her.
When nothing else did.
Exactly. So we start with the story of Stacy. She's a 41-year-old working mom. And she felt, generally happy with her life.
Mm-hmm.
But every time she looked in the mirror, she just felt deeply unhappy with her body. She described this whole list of symptoms that just kept getting worse.
And what were they?
Well, first, there was this instant, really uncomfortable bloating after every single meal, a crushing exhaustion that would hit her like a wall around 3 p.m.
The 3 p.m. crash. Very familiar to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Then constant aggressive sugar cravings.
Yeah.
And that classic brain fog, the kind where you walk into a room and just completely forget why you're there.
It's so easy to dismiss those things, isn't it? Especially for women over 35.
Yeah.
You just chalk it up to getting older or stress.
She did. She thought it was just age or maybe her hormones.
But when you have that whole cascade of symptoms, digestion, energy, cognitive issues, that is your body signaling that a core function is really struggling.
So let's get to her turning point. It was completely unexpected. She's at a routine physical, and she just kind of mentions her list of complaints, the fatigue, the bloating, the stubborn weight. Her doctor runs some blood work, and when the results come back, he says one sentence that it redefined everything for her. He said, "You may be showing symptoms of fatty liver disease."
And the shock is just immediate, right?
Yeah.
Fatty liver. Most people associate that with one thing and one thing only.
Alcohol. Heavy drinking.
Exactly. But this is the key. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. NAFLD.
Yeah.
She wasn't an extreme drinker. She wasn't even classified as morbidly obese.
So that must have been incredibly confusing.
This is where the sheer prevalence of NAFLD becomes so important for you, the listener, to understand. The research suggests this is
It's practically an epidemic.
How common are we talking? Approximately 1 in 3 American adults has some form of it. 1 in 3. And the vast majority are completely unaware.
Wow.
And the first sign usually isn't liver pain. It's those vague systemic symptoms Stacy had. The fatigue, the slow digestion, the inability to lose weight. It's the silent pandemic of metabolic dysfunction.
Okay, so if it's so widespread, what's the consequence? How does a sluggish liver lead to a 3 p.m. crash? This is the aha moment we need to get to.
Right. Or if you think about it, the liver is basically the metabolic traffic cop for your entire body.
Right.
When it gets fatty and inflamed, it quietly affects almost everything. It loses its ability to regulate your blood sugar properly, for starters.
Okay, let's unpack this. What is the actual physiological process that connects a fatty liver to that stubborn weight gain, even if you're eating less?
So the core mechanism is essentially, it's a defensive failure. Your liver has 2 main jobs when it comes to energy, processed glucose and processed fat. When it's chronically overloaded, and that can be from processed foods, chronic stress, or just way too much sugar, it can't keep up. It gets inflamed. And that leads to insulin resistance right there in the liver.
Wait, so if the liver itself becomes insulin resistant, what does that mean for the fat that Stacy is trying so hard to burn?
That is an excellent question.
Ceasing.
It means the liver basically goes into survival mode. It struggles to process glucose, so your blood sugar spikes, which makes your pancreas release even more insulin.
A vicious cycle.
A total vicious cycle. And that continuous insulin signal, plus the liver's own inflammation, it sends this powerful message to the whole body. Store everything.
Everything.
So instead of breaking fat down into energy, the liver literally starts storing it, both around itself, and then it sends it out to be deposited elsewhere.
So the liver isn't just a passive storage site. It's actively kind of blocking the fat burning process.
Precisely.
Which means a slow liver, as the source material calls it, keeps your entire metabolism locked down. You can count every calorie, but if the main processing unit is stuck on store, you're not going to see any real sustained weight loss.
You're performing the input correctly? Sure. You're eating less? But the hardware is compromised, and that stored fat, it shows up right where people hate it most. Around the belly, that's the inflammatory visceral fat, and then the more obvious fat in the hips and arms.
But here's the encouraging news, though. If we know the mechanism, we can target it. And you mentioned that experts say early-stage fatty liver is completely reversible.
It is, and that is the critical takeaway here. Stacy's symptoms, they were not a life sentence. They were treatable metabolic signals.
So once Stacy realized the problem was her liver, she tried all the common advice you find online. But it just didn't work. She tried cutting all sugar and carbs. She took liver detox supplements like milk thistle, drank hot lemon water every morning. She even tried fasting until noon.
All the usual suspect.
Right. And while some of it gave her a little bit of temporary relief, nothing created lasting change.
And this failure really highlights a crucial distinction. Why do those general health tips fall short? Well, the sources suggest they're too general.
How so?
Well, cutting carbs is great, for example. But if the rest of the food she ate was still highly processed or inflammatory, the liver never actually got the break it needed.
And what about something like milk thistle? I mean, that's marketed everywhere as a liver support supplement. Why wouldn't that fix it?
It's supportive, for sure. Milk thistle has silymarin, which can help liver cells regenerate. But it doesn't address the underlying systemic burden.
Okay.
Think of it this way. If your car engine is clogged with sludge, pouring in a high-grade additive won't fix a problem. You have to change the oil. You have to change the quality of the fuel you're putting in.
So these general approaches just didn't provide the specific structure her liver needed to repair. So Stacy finally found an intervention that was proven, that was targeted, an approach she saw over and over in clinical studies called the ultimate liver fat detox.
Which is the structured anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that the sources aren't promoting some exotic temporary cleanse. It's a long-term evidence-based way of eating. Real whole foods.
So what does that include?
Whole grains, healthy fats like olive oil, lean proteins, and just a massive array of colorful fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices.
Wait a minute, though. Isn't the Mediterranean diet relatively high in fat, like olive oil? If her liver is already struggling to process fat, why would adding more fat be the fix? That sounds counterintuitive.
That is an excellent point, and that's where the distinction is so important. We're not talking about adding saturated or trans fats.
Okay.
We're focusing on monounsaturated fats like from olive oil and omega-3s.
Yeah.
These fats are actually anti-inflammatory. They directly reduce the stress on the liver.
So they help instead of hurt.
They help. And they also trigger satiety signals, which helps stabilize blood sugar and reduces that constant need for the liver to process glucose. Studies show this kind of diet can reduce liver fat, lower inflammation, and improve metabolic function in just a few weeks.
So what for the listener is that by feeding the liver the nutrients it actually needs, the antioxidants, the fiber, the healthy fats, it can finally get back to its real job.
Which is burning fat.
Instead of just managing inflammation and storing energy.
Exactly. It's unclogging the engine. And that leads directly to better blood sugar control, which dramatically reduces those aggressive cravings and sets the stage for genuine sustained weight loss.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. This is where Stacy's journey hits what I'll call the personalization wall.
Hmm.
She knew the Mediterranean diet was the solution, but she was immediately just overwhelmed by conflicting advice online. One blog says dairy is fine, another says cut it all out. One plan pushes super high fat, another warns against it. She just swapped one kind of frustration for another. She needed structure, not another guessing game.
And that lack of consistency in generalized advice is a massive hurdle. I mean, if you're already dealing with brain fog and low energy, trying to figure out conflicting information,
Hmm,
it makes it almost impossible to stick with anything.
right.
Consistency is the key to reversing a condition like NAFLD.
Right.
And consistency requires an easy-to-follow plan.
So her breakthrough came when she found a personalized plan. It's called No Diet in our source material that tailored the Mediterranean framework to her specific needs.
And this is the deep dive value right here. Personalization isn't just about calorie counts. The successful plan focused heavily on liver-supportive micronutrients.
Like what?
Well, it integrated foods rich in choline and betaine. Those are compounds that are vital for transporting fat out of the liver. And it ensured high fiber intake to help regulate everything.
So the plan wasn't just eat whole foods. It was structured around specific nutrients that actively tell the liver, hey, it's safe now. You can start moving fat out.
That's right. And crucially, the system was designed for real life. Realistic meals you can make in under 20 minutes, simple swaps if you don't like something, and even optional short movement routines like 12 minutes.
The key was minimizing decision fatigue.
And maximizing long-term adherence. Absolutely.
So let's walk through Stacy's timeline because the results were about so much more than the number on the scale. It was about reversing those symptoms.
And the speed of that initial relief is what's really telling. It shows they were treating the systemic inflammation first.
Okay, so week 1. The bloating, her biggest daily complaint, it reduced almost instantly. She said she felt noticeably flatter, her clothes fit better right away.
And that immediate physical feedback is so motivating.
It has to be. She lost nearly a kilogram that first week, 0.95 kilograms.
Which is usually the body just shedding excess inflammation and water retention.
Mm-hmm.
But the real change comes next.
Right. Moving into week 2, she reported sleeping much better, deeper rest, and her energy levels were significantly higher. Her 3 p.m. crash just vanished.
And that's where the liver is starting to get its blood sugar regulation under control. More stable energy, better sleep. That brain fog we talked about, that's a direct result of a poor fuel supply to the brain.
She lost another 1.5 kilograms that week.
Hmm.
Then, by week 3, the changes were external. People started noticing. She said there was less puffiness in her face, her skin was clearer, and maybe most profoundly, her mood shifted. She said she was simply less irritable. She wasn't lashing out at others, as she put it.
The cognitive and mood benefits are so often underestimated. When you reduce that systemic inflammation and stabilize blood sugar, your mood stabilizes too. The liver regulates so much more than just fat.
And the results were sustained. By week 4, she'd lost a total of 4.7 kilograms without any obsessive counting. 3 months later, her total sustained weight loss was over 13.6 kilograms.
And the core realization for her, I think, was that she wasn't battling herself anymore. She wasn't fighting cravings. She was simply supporting an organ so it could do its job.
That is the ultimate conclusion for you, the listener. If you feel stuck, if you're chronically exhausted and bloated, and every diet has failed you, the problem might not be your willpower.
No.
It might be a compromised organ, your liver. And the solution isn't just cutting calories, it's providing specific, targeted, personalized support that allows that metabolic engine to finally reset.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, given that 1 in 3 adults might have NAFLD, and the symptoms are so easily confused with just aging or stress,
Yeah.
it really raises an important question, doesn't it? When we evaluate lifestyle changes, are we focusing too much on generalized advice like a caloric deficit and not enough on supporting the function of this one crucial organ that manages our entire metabolism?
It really shifts the focus from punishment to targeted nourishment. We hope this deep dive encourages you to consider what hidden metabolic factors might be at play in your own health journey. Until next time.